Okay, so we are continuing our series of predictions about what does AI look like in 1,000 days.
Tim, we're going to continue the 1,000 days out view. We're looking at the end of 2028-ish right now.
Yeah.
Tim, something that's not being talked about enough right now that will absolutely be talked about a lot more in 1,000 days are small language models.
Okay. Talk to me about small language models.
Yeah. So a colleague, Dmitry Sharkov and I were actually having a conversation about this recently. We were sitting together, and part of this did come up. And, part of what we were talking about was, hey, the large language models seem to have hit a bit of a wall in their capabilities.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can deny that.
Right.
Okay. As much as, the Sam Altmans of the world and Google Gemini representatives, et cetera.
Yeah. The breathtaking progress, at least for the moment, seems to have stalled.
Well, even Elon Musk with Grok is like, oh, well, AGI is like the next model. No, it's not the next model, right? It hit the wall, and everybody has to admit it. That's no problem. But here's what's unbelievable, Tim, is that if you take a small language model, something that's trained on a lot less information, but you hyper optimize it for a particular job, wow, what you can get out of it. Therefore, you don't need large language models for a majority of the places where AI is going to be used in the future.
Right. If you want to have a very specific use case, if you have an agentic AI that is doing one thing very specifically, all it needs to do is that thing very, very, very well.
And it turns out in all of the scientific research right now that hyper-tuning small language models is the future. And I'll tell you that things like Gemini Nano are not an accident.
Right.
Really tiny models that can sit on a laptop or sit on an edge device and do non-deterministic thinking. I use thinking with air quotes.
Sure.
My God, it can do a lot of incredibly powerful work.
Yeah, and do real specific things. Know when to change this one actuator and change it at the right time every time.
So Tim, 1,000 days, I'm not talking 10 years out, whole other conversation. 1,000 days out. If I'm a 20, if I'm an 18-year-old right now thinking about myself in 3 years, I am going to teach myself how to utilize the power of small language models, especially if I'm in jurisdictions where the impact of small language models can be unbelievable. Let's say that you're running nurse triage in the third world, and you have the savvy to take a Raspberry Pi with a 7B model. What could you do with it? A lot. What's your value in that economy? So the previous episode to this, we talked about the human in the loop economy, 1,000 days out.
Yeah.
This is an extension to this, where it's not just human in the loop. It's human carrying a small language model around with them that's been hyper-tuned to solve a particular problem, where today there's a whole lot of manual work and not enough hands to do the work. Small language models can do unbelievable, powerful tasks in incredibly cheap and small form factors.
And this is sitting on a laptop or a phone?
This could be sitting on literally
a bespoke device?
All of the above.
Okay.
Small, cheap devices. Like, how many people in the world are carrying a sub $100 Android? That's a lot. Well, that's a supercomputer compared to what you need for this.
Right. Okay.
That's the scale at which we're talking.
So this could just be an app.
It could be a very simplistic, and this is the crazy thing. This could actually be a small language model that could build its own app in real time.
Sure.
To suit the purpose.
Sure. Why not?
Which is, this is why I think there's almost a limit to our imagination in what could be done. So I would say that, sub $100, sub $50 devices in the hands of people that are creating enormous economic value. We've never, ever, ever been in that position before. And if I were to use more economic words around this, it's this. There has never been a more wide arbitrage between the value of AI, the value it can bring, and the cost of operating it. Because most people, when they're thinking about AI right now, they're thinking about, well, the cost per token of running code to make an enterprise level application.
Right.
Well, that has significant cost because it's a large language model that's running off of. And there's significant cost to running large language models. Well, what happens if you're running small language models that have zero cost to operate other than the electricity,
Right.
which might be battery powered?
Once they're set up, they just sit there and run.
I mean, it could be set up, with a solar panel and creating significant amount of economic value. If I'm 16, 18 years old right now, and I'm living in a jurisdiction that just is like, my God, what could we do if we had a computer that could make decisions? And I'm looking at today's open source, open weight models that cost nothing to run, and I learn how to hyper optimize them for my use case. Wow. We haven't even seen the beginnings of the explosion of that. And in 3 years, it's going to change our economy.
I don't think we've seen that really at all in implementation in the world.
That's right. However, anybody who's paying attention to the scientific research of the effectiveness of small language models cannot ignore the fact that I think, and I'm not the first person to say this, so I'm copying other people, the future is small language models.
So for the listeners, do you have handy, can you give us just a made up example of what this might be?
Sure. I'll give you something that's along our PKI podcast route, okay? I stumbled upon a small language model. Stumbled upon it is what I say because I was trying to get a small language model that I could run offline on my MacBook Air. Okay. So it has a neural engine chip that's happens to run AI particularly, small language models particularly well. Apple hardware is just good at it, just because of the way it's architected. And I happened to find that this small language model was trained on cab forum minutes and cab forum BRs. So when I asked it questions about cab forum, like, hey,
you got very good answers.
I got surprisingly good answers.
So you could use this. This could be a handy little compliance advisor, a WebPKI compliance advisor.
Perfectly said.
Excellent.
Perfectly said.
I get it. So now you can imagine that in a unlimited number of areas of specific knowledge.
So Tim, yes, you're absolutely right. A cab forum MIDI advisor.
Yeah.
But surprisingly excellent. Like not just, vague notions of what's in the BRs, but like you could actually ask it, hey, can I set up an offline system to do this? Is this compliant?
Yep.
And Tim, this small language model was just killing it. And this was not a 32B model or a 120B model. This was 7B, little tiny model.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, now you could start imagining just a bottomless list of things where something that's just very good at that kind of specialized knowledge would be super helpful.
Think about today in the world of consulting or law.
Yeah. Yeah, law.
Where there's the corpus that you can train on is complete within a swallowable amount. And you just apply really good training on that. Like really good hyper-optimized training. Like the way that, I'll give it away, Mistral Nemo 7B is trained. And my goodness, what you couldn't do with that little expert. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not just experts on an academic topic, but it's also eventually, all right, I'm going to hook this up to robotic systems. I'm going to have this thing connect to MCP servers and automate and orchestrate IT systems. Therefore, things like, real world, nursing triage in the middle of a disaster zone. What used to be, okay, I need an expert, consultant to help me to set this up. Therefore, I'm probably not going to do it right. I have to compromise. Well, what happens if you had a $39, Raspberry Pi and a little 7B model that really knew how to do this and could communicate with MCP servers, could communicate with robotic systems, and that's all it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got yourself a fully functional thing that would be a team of consultants.
Right. Yeah.
1,000 days from now, we've got that.
I think so. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.